Hey, Dan Biegelman here. In this video, Chords and Arpeggios Part 2, I'll cover 4-part chords, different types of 4-part chords, arpeggios, and alterations. If you haven't seen my video, Chords and Arpeggios Part 1, you might want to check that out as well, where I discuss 3-part chords, but you don't have to watch that video before this one in order to follow the material that I present in this video. Okay, on to 4-part chords. To understand 4-part chords and arpeggios, we want to see how they are derived from the major scale. Here's a C major scale in 2 octaves. Okay, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There are 7 tones in this scale, the diatonic scale. Okay, and then when I hit my next note, that's the octave, or the beginning of the second octave of the scale, and finishing up with the octave. So it's a 2-octave scale. If I assign a number or a degree to each of these tones in the scale, just count it along. C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7. When you get to the octave, that's 8 or 1, if you want to start counting again. But to look at it from the point of view calling this 8, then this next note here, this D, would be 9. And if you go back to the beginning, the second note is D, which is the second. So a second and the ninth are octaves, same note, just like the octave C and C. Same note, just an octave higher. So the second and the ninth are the same note. The third and the 10th, the 4th and the 11th, same idea. So I'm now count this through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The video I did prior to this, Chords and Arpeggios Part 1, I looked at 3-part chords. And a 3-part chord is your basic chord. It uses the 1st, 3rd, and 5th tone of the scale to create the chord. So if I took the 1st, 3rd, and 5th tone of this C scale, instead of playing, I just played the 1st tone, the 3rd tone, and the 5th tone. C, E, G. I have a C major chord. 4-part chords use 4 degrees from the scale. The 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th tone. Okay, so if I just played, again, here's the 1 octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I just play the 1st degree, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th, I have a C major 7th chord. If I just play 1, 3, 5, that's a C chord, or wherever. If I add the 7th degree, which is B, I now have a C major 7th chord. So you can apply this to any chord form for these major chords and turn them into major 7th. For example, here's a C chord, right? If I want to turn this into a major 7th chord, I have to add a 4th tone because this only has 3 notes in there, C, E, and G. So to turn this into a major 7th chord, I just add the 7th tone, which is B. So how can I do that? On string 2, I have a C note. If I lift that off, now it's a B note, the open 2nd string. C major, C major 7th, okay? Another way I could do this is if I put my pinky on the 4th fret on string 3, that's a B note as well. That's another voicing for C major 7. But by doing it this way, I took away that open 3rd string, I took away the G. So I just have now 1, 3, and 7. 1, 3, 7. I don't have a 5th. The 5th degree at times could be left off the chord because you still have enough with the other intervals to give you the sense of what the chord is. But there's another option here as well. I can bring my 3rd finger up to string 6. Here's a G note, and I still have my C here, so if I do this, that's also a true C major 7th chord. I have all the tones. Here's my C note, a 1. Here's E are 3, 7, and 5 on the bottom. So I could say C major 7th slash G, or C major 7th with a G bass. Okay? But anyway, the point is, any chord can be turned into, any major chord can be turned into a major 7th chord just by adding the 7th degree of that key that you're in, or of the chord. Here's a C chord, right? When I'm playing this, I have 1, 3, 5, and 1 again. So I have an octave higher on that C note. So since I have two C notes here, either one of these can be flatted or moved to the left 1 fret and turn into a major 7th chord. If I took the top C note and moved it back to B, I'd have this. Okay, C major 7th, 1, 3, 5, 7. I also have a C note on string 4. If I brought this back, I'd have, that's also C major 7th, because I have all the tones I need, 1, 3, 5, and 7, but it sounds different because there's a different voicing. Voicing means the way the notes are stacked, and I'll get into that later in the video when we talk about inversions. So again, the key thing is every chord has a formula to it. And by knowing the formula to the chord, you can construct the chord or make the changes to the chord to turn it into something else, like altered chords. And I'll get into this later in the video, but just as an example, here's a C major 7th chord, a very common voicing. And the way these notes are stacked, I have 1, 5, 7, 3. Right? Here's my 5th here. Altered chords are when you raise or lower the 5th. If I lower this 5th, this G note, to a G flat, now I have C major 7 flat 5. If I raise that 5th, I have C major 7 sharp 5. And later in the video I'll cover altered chords. But again, just so you can see how this works, every chord has a set sequence of notes to it, and then you can change one chord into another by understanding the chemistry or the formula for the chord. Like again, every chord has a formula, and it comes from the degrees of the scale. A major 7th chord is 1, 3, 5, 7. That means whatever key you're in, take the root, or 1, the 3rd, 5th, and 7th, you put those together, you have a major 7th chord. A minor 7th chord has a formula. A dominant 7th chord has a formula. A diminished 7th chord has a formula. Okay? So you go to the scale, you pull out the notes from the scale that you need, and you got your chord. Here are 5 common 4-part chords. C major 7th chord, 1, 5, 7, 3, or C, G, B, E. Okay? And again, a C major 7th chord uses the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th degree of the scale. A minor 7th chord is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. That's the formula for the chord. If I go to my C scale, I need the 1, the flat 3, the 5, and the flat 7. C is 1, the 3rd is E, I need E flat. The G is 5, and the 7th tone is B. I need it to be flat, which gives me B flat. So for C minor 7th chord, I need C, E flat, G, and B flat. And here's a C minor 7th chord. I have C, G, B flat, E flat. Okay? C major 7th, C minor 7th. A C dominant 7th chord, the formula for it is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Your bluesy sounding chord. And because it has the flat 7th, if I go back to the major 7th chord for a second, 1, 3, 5, 7, to change a major 7th chord into a dominant 7th chord, I flat the 7th tone. The 7th tone is B, I flat it to B flat, and I have this. So just by changing that one note really makes a big, big difference. C major 7th, C 7th, or C dominant 7th. Okay? A C diminished 7th chord is 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, or 6th. 1, flat 3, flat 5, 6. Okay? Again, go to C scale, take 1, flat the 3rd, flat the 5th, and double flat the 7th, which is the same as a 6th tone, and you have a diminished seventh chord. And then a half diminished seventh chord is 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. Okay, so just by altering some of these notes, other than the root note obviously, will bring me into a whole series of different chords. So again, your 5 common 4-part chords: major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, diminished 7, and half diminished. And every one of these has a formula to it using 4 notes from the major scale. Chords derived from the major scale. What does that mean? You can build chords on each of the degrees of the major scale. I'll show you how this works. Here's your C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If I start with a C major 7th chord, okay, I'm going to move up the neck, and on each string I'm going to follow the scale. I'll play the next note in the scale on each string. So in other words, on string 5 I have a C note. The next note in the scale is D, so I'm going to move that up to D. On string 4 I have a G note. The next note after G is A. On string 3 I have a B note. That's going to become C. On string 2 I have an E note, and that'll move up to F. So in a sense I'm starting with the C major 7th chord, and then it's like if I visualize moving up in a C scale, all natural notes, you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, just moving up the neck and placing the finger on each string to the next subsequent tone in the scale, I have this. And that gives me a D minor 7th chord. What I'm doing is I'm just going up the fingerboard in a C scale pattern on each of these strings. And that gives me what's called chords in the key. So by doing this, I'm going to have a chord built on each of the 7 tones in the major scale. C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G dominant 7 or just G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5 or B half diminished, and finishing C major 7. So what do these chords have in common? Every one of those chords I played used notes in the C major scale. There were no sharps, no flats in any of those chords. And that's what that term means, chords in a key. C major 7th, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and C major 7th. All using notes from the C major scale, the 1, 3, 5, and 7th degrees. And the same holds true for the key of A minor. Remember, C major and A minor are the same, 2 sides of the same coin. A C major scale has all natural notes. An A minor scale has all natural notes. It's just which tone you're using as the key center. You're using C as the key center for C major. For A minor, using A as the key center. So that same principle, chords in a key, I can apply to now A minor. So I'll start with an A minor 7th chord. Okay, I have A, E, G, and C. And I'll just move up on each of the 4 strings to the next note in the C scale, whatever note happens to be. String 5 is A, that'll go to B. String 4 is E, that'll go to F. String 3 is G, that'll go to A. And string 1 is C, that'll go to D. So A minor 7, moving it up, B minor 7 flat 5, C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7 and A minor 7. So what do those chords have in common? They all have notes that belong to the key of A minor. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about chord inversions. What is an inversion? An inversion is restacking or reordering the order of the notes as they come out. Back to three-part chords for a second. Here's a C major chord in what's called the root position. Okay, a C major chord, remember, is a three-part chord. It has three notes from the major scale, the first, third, and fifth, C, E, G. So if I play those notes in that order, C, E, and G, that's a C major chord in the root position, 1, 3, 5. If I take the root note and put it on the top, so instead of 1, 3, 5, I'll play 3, 5, 1. So instead of C, E, G, I'll play E, G, C. And I have this. So that's a C major chord in the first inversion, because the order of the notes are 3, 5, 1. And if I now take the lowest note and flip that over to the top, I would then be playing 5, 1, 3, and I have this. So that's a C chord in the second inversion. C chord root position, C chord first inversion, C chord second inversion. Okay? Now when it comes to four-part chords, the root position is 1, 3, 5, 7. And then if you invert it, you take the 1 and flip it onto the top, and you go 3, 5, 7, 1, and then on and on. And because the four-part chord family has four notes in it, there would be four ways to stack the notes. The root position, first, second, and third inversion. Unfortunately, it's pretty much impossible to play the four true chord inversions, and I'll show you what I mean. A C major seventh chord, as I said, has 1, 3, 5, 7. Those four notes, C, E, G, and B. That's an easy voicing to play in root position, C, E, G, B. Right? There you go, 1, 3, 5, 7, C major seventh chord. Now if I take the root note and put it on the top, instead of playing 1, 3, 5, 7, I want to play 3, 5, 7, 1. Nearly impossible unless your fingers are span this wide. I can't do it, and I don't know if anybody can, but just to show you technically or how this would make sense. So I have 1, 3, 5, 7 for the root position. Now if I take the root note, the 1, and put it on the top, I need to have 3, 5, 7, 1, which would be E, G, B, and then C, right? E, G, and B, and then 1 on top. I'd have to stretch my fingers to go. Impossible. Well, impossible for me. So a true first inversion for a major seventh chord is pretty much impossible to play. The second inversion, which would then be 5, 7, 1, 3, is possible. And that would be G, B, C, and E. Okay? I'm playing the fifth, the seventh, the root, and the third. So C major 7 in the second inversion. Okay? And then if I flip that to, if I took the lowest note, put that on the top, for the third inversion, to have 7, 1, 5, 3, I would need B, and then C, E, and G. So I'd have to play, if I could stretch my pinky all the way here, which I can't, but it would sound like this. Right? That would be in the third inversion. So when it comes to four-part chords and their true inversions, it's really the root position and the second inversion that are playable. Root position and second inversion. Right? The first inversion and the third inversion are nearly impossible or impossible. Because of that, most times we're playing these chords in other inversions, not true inversions in the respect of the way the notes are just, restacked, but for example, back to what I showed you earlier, when I was moving up the chords up the neck, that's a very common inversion for these four-part chords, which will give you the voicing of the root, fifth, 7, and then 3. 1, 5, 7, 3. Very, very easy way to play those chords. If you've ever heard the term altered chords, what an altered chord is raising or lowering the 5th degree and or the 9th degree when you're dealing with 5-part chords. Of course, you bring in the 9th degree, which I'll get into in a future video, Chords and Arpeggios Part 3. So since we're just dealing with 4-part chords here, altering the 5th degree, which means raising or lowering the 5th degree, will give you an altered chord. And I showed you a couple of these earlier in the video. But to see this again, here's a C major 7th chord, 1, 5, 7, 3. Right? The 5th of this chord on string 4 is the G note, the 5th tone in the C scale. Right? So C major 7, and to make this an altered chord, you would raise or lower the 5th tone. So if I lowered the 5th, instead of playing G, I make that G flat. What I'm playing now is C major 7, flat 5. Right? C major 7, flat the 5th. And as I keep saying, every chord has a formula. The formula for a altered major 7th chord, one of them would be 1, 3, flat 5, 7. Okay? If I raise the 5th, I have C major 7 sharp 5. So I have C, G sharp, B, and E. Okay? All I did was raise the 5th tone. And now I have an altered chord. So you can alter the C major 7th chord into 2 ways. C major 7 flat 5, C major 7 sharp 5. I could do the same thing with a C minor 7th chord. C minor 7th chord, I have 1, 5, flat 7, flat 3. If I flat the 5th, C minor 7, flat 5, C, G flat, B flat, E flat. That's the formula for a minor 7 flat 5 chord. 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. But of course it's not in that order. I have 1, flat 5, flat 7, flat 3. But again, same tones that I need to make the chord. And then I can have C minor 7, sharp 5. So again, C minor 7. If I raise that G to a G sharp, I have C minor 7, sharp 5. And then your dominant chord, your bluesy sounding chord, C7th, right? C7, flat 5, same idea, just flat that G note. C7, flat 5, or if I sharp it, C7, sharp 5. So here are your 3 principal chords with alterations. C major 7, C major 7, flat 5, C major 7, sharp 5, C minor 7, C minor 7, flat 5, C minor 7, sharp 5, C7, C7, flat 5, C7, sharp 5. Okay? And that's how that works. Again, every chord has a formula. Just do what it tells you. If you have a C major 7th chord, you know it's 1, 3, 5, 7. If you want C major 7, flat 5, just play a C major 7th chord and flat the 5th. For example, here's another voicing for C major 7th in the root position. 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay? 1, 3, 5, 7, C, E, G, B. If I want this to be C7, I take a major 7th chord and I flat the 7th. And I have C7th, and you can hear it. It sounds like a dominant or a bluesy sounding chord. If I flat the 5th, in this case the 5th is on string 2, if I flat that, C major 7, flat 5. If I raise it, C major 7, sharp 5. So you take your basic chord, the major 7th, minor 7th, or dominant 7th, and raise or lower the 5th tone, and you have your altered chords. Now let's look at chord arpeggios. What is an arpeggio? An arpeggio is when you're playing the notes in a chord one at a time, like a scale. For example, a C chord, 1, 3, 5, that's it. If I played a C major arpeggio, I would just play C, E, G. That's a C major arpeggio. Now if I went to a scale, like and crossed the fingerboard with all the C's, E's, and G's in one position, if you will, it would sound like this. So that's a C arpeggio. C, E, G, and then I repeat. C, E, G, C, E, and if I continue, G. So here's a C arpeggio from a low C to a high C up here. I just played C, E, G, C, E, G, and on and on and on. So now applying that to the 4-part chords, playing a major 7th arpeggio, it means, again, you go to the scale. Remember, a major scale has 7 tones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The major 7th chord, or the formula, is 1, 3, 5, 7. 4 of the 7 tones in the scale. So I'm just going to play those 4 tones, C, E, G, and B. That's my major 7th arpeggio. Of course, that's just 1 octave, and if I played it across the board, I'd have C major 7th arpeggio, 1, 3, 5, 7. Then next octave, 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 1 to complete. C major 7th arpeggio. And it sounds like a C major 7th chord. As I showed you earlier in the video, raising and lowering the 5th to the chord, I could do the same thing to the arpeggio. So if I want to play a C major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio, I'll just do what it tells me to do. Instead of playing a C major 7 arpeggio, I'll play C major 7 sharp 5. That means sharp the 5th. So instead of C, E, G, B, I play C, E, G sharp, and B. And it's going to sound like a major 7 sharp 5 chord. And if I flat the 5th, I have a C major 7 flat 5 arpeggio. C, E, G flat, and B. C major 7 flat 5. Okay? And now looking at the arpeggios for the minor 7th chord. C minor 7, C minor 7 sharp 5, C minor 7 flat 5. Here's a C minor 7th arpeggio. The formula for a minor 7th chord is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So I'm going to play C, which is 1, E flat, which is the flat 3rd, G, which is the 5th, and B flat, which is the flat 7th. So I have, that's my minor 7th arpeggio in 1 octave. And across the board now, C minor 7 arpeggio, C, E flat, G, B flat, C, E flat, G, B flat, C, E flat, G, B flat, C. C minor 7 sharp 5. I play C, E flat, G sharp, B flat. And cross the board with that. C minor 7 sharp 5. C, E flat, G sharp, B flat. C, E flat, G sharp, B flat. C, E flat, G sharp, B flat, C. And if I flat the 5th, I'd have C minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. C, E flat, G flat, B flat. And if I cross the board with that, C minor 7 flat 5. Okay? And now the C dominant 7th chord, I have 1, 3, 5 flat 7th. To make it C dominant 7th chord, I need 1, 3, 5 flat 7, or C, E, G, and B flat. So C, E, G, B flat, C, E, G, B flat, C, E, G, B flat, and C, and it's going to sound like a C 7th chord. C 7th arpeggio. Okay? C 7 sharp 5, raise the 5th. So I'll have 1, 3, sharp 5, flat 7, or C, E, G sharp, and B flat. C7 sharp 5, and then C7 flat 5, I would have C, E, G flat, and B flat. C7 flat 5. And then there's the diminished 7th arpeggio, 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, or 6. C, E flat, G flat, B double flat, or A. C diminished 7th, and then C half diminished, which is the same as a C minus 7 flat 5, which I showed you. And those are the arpeggios on the three principal four-part chords: major 7, minor 7, dominant 7th, and their alterations, and then the diminished and the half diminished. Now, as you've seen so far in this video, all the chords that we're looking at have been four-part chords using the root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th degrees, and altering some of the tones. But basically, the four-part chords use the 1, 3, 5, and 7 from the major scale. There are some other four-part chords to look at. One of them is the sus7, or the 7th sus chord. For example, here's a C major chord, and most people probably know this chord if you just add your pinky on string 2 there. This chord here, C major, is only a 3-part chord. It uses 1, 3, 5 from the major scale, C, E, G. If I put my pinky on string 2 here, I didn't add a 4th note. It's still a 3-part chord. I took the 3rd and I raised it to a 4th. So in this voicing for C major, I have 1, 5, 1, 3. So I have 2 root notes, and then the 5th and the 3rd. So I'm playing 4 strings, but only 3 different notes. The note on string 2 is the 3rd of the chord. If I grab that with my pinky 1 fret higher, I've taken the 3rd and turned it into a 4th. It's not a 4-part chord because I don't have a 3rd in there anymore. Okay? I have 1, 5, 1, 4. The 3rd became a 4, or suspended 4th. So this is a suspended 4th chord, or a sus4. Again, it's still a 3-part chord. But if I play a 7th chord, C, a 7th chord, and then if I raise that E note to an F note, taking the 3rd to the 4th, I still have 4 notes in here. I have C, G, B flat, and F. So now I'm playing 1, 4, 5, flat 7. So this is a C7 suspended chord, or C sus7. C sus4, C sus7 brings in that B flat note, which is the flat 7th. Okay? Another 4-part chord is adding the 9th tone of the scale to a major chord. Again, back to the major scale for a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 9th tone of C is D. It's also an octave higher than the 2nd, but we'll call it D here, the 9th. If I play, here's my open C chord. The 9th tone is D. If I add a D note to this chord, on string 2, there's a D note. If I put my pinky here on string fret 3, I now have a 4-part chord. C, add 9. I have 4 tones. 1, 3, 5, 9. Okay? C, E, G, and 9. Now, it's not a C 9th chord. It's C, add 9. And it's usually written C with the number 9 in a parenthesis. Because if it was just C9 without the parenthesis, that's a 5-part chord. Your bluesy sounding chord, right? That's C9. This is C, add 9. Okay, it doesn't have the B flat or the flat seventh. Again, a C ninth is a 5-part chord, and I'll get into that in a later video, Chords and Arpeggios Part 3. So again, take any chord, your major chord, let's say here's a C chord up here, little C chord. The 9th tone is D. If I add a D note in here, there's a D note right on string 1. That's C, add 9. Another 4-part chord, not used very often, at least not used that often in popular music, pop music, blues, and anything like that, but it's called the minor major 7th chord. And what that is, it's a minor 7th chord, or it's a minor chord actually, like C, E flat, G, but adding the major 7th to it. So it's not a minor 7th, it's like a minor chord, like here's C minor. And the 7th tone of that, and the 7th tone of C is B. So if I play C minor and add a B note in there, I have C minor major 7. Kind of an interesting sounding chord. Here's a C minor 7th chord, right? 1 flat 3, 5 flat 7. If I raise the 7th, or instead of playing a flatted 7th, I play a natural 7th, I'm going to have this. C minor major 7. And another very common 4-part chord is the 6th chord. The 6th chord, like C6, okay? Most chords are built using the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. The even numbers that are used in chords are 2, 4, and 6. The 2 and the 4 are used as suspensions or suspended chords. So for example, back to the I showed you before, here's a C major chord. The 3rd is on string 2. If I raise that, I have a suspended 4th. Okay? Instead of raising it, if I lower it to a D note, that's C sus2, where C add 9, I'm adding a D note to that chord, but the difference is this chord is a 3-part chord. I have 1, 5, 1, 2, suspended 2nd. So just 1, 2, and 5, if you will. In the add 9 chord, I have 1, 3, 5, and 9, or 2, just an octave higher. So C sus2, C add 9. They both have a D note on the top, but this chord is a 4-part chord. That's a 3-part chord. So the 2nd and the 4th degrees are used for suspended seconds and suspended 4ths. The 6th chord is a 4-part chord. It's 1, 3, 5, and 6. I take a C major scale, I go to the 6th tone, which is A. So if I play a C chord and I add an A note in there on string 3, I could get that this way. I now have a C6 chord, okay? Here's a C chord up here. On string 2, I have a G. If I put my pinky on string 2 at fret 10, there's an A note. Very common chord, the 6th chord, okay? So the 6th chord is 1, 3, 5, and 6 from the major scale. Now for soloing and playing over 4-part chords, I'll look at the 3 principal types of 4-part chords. The major 7th chord, the minor 7th chord, and the dominant 7th chord. So the major 7th chord, right? Major scale would be a perfect fit to play over that. So if you're playing a C major 7th chord, play a C major scale. Right? No problem there. It's going to be fine. You can also use the Lydian mode. The Lydian mode is like a major scale with a raised 4th. Okay? And check out in the description for links to my videos on modes and scales and all things related. Lydian mode is, like I said, a major scale with a raised 4th. Here's a C major scale. If I raise the 4th tone, instead of playing F, I play F sharp. Right? That will still sit nicely over that. But also, remember, with altered chords, if I flat the 5th, in a sense, flatting the 5th is the same as like having a raised 4th, the F sharp. So if I was playing C major 7, flat 5, we'll will be perfect scale to fit over that. Okay, so what you do sometimes is you can take the scale and alter the tone in the scale to match the altered tone in the chord. Okay, so again, major type chords, major scale, and a Lydian mode will work fine. And you can also mix that with major pentatonic and major blues scales because you're in the major chord family. The minor chord family, like minor seventh chords, right? The minor scale, which is also the Aeolian mode, will work fine for that. You can also use the Dorian mode, will be a nice fit for the minor seventh chord family. Dorian mode is like a minor chord with a raised sixth. Here's a C Aeolian mode, right? So a natural minor scale, and here's a C Dorian mode. Right? C Dorian mode, which is also like a B flat scale. And third, the dominant seventh chord family, what will work nicely over that is the Mixolydian mode. See, a major scale is not going to sound good on a dominant seventh chord because dominant seventh chord, you have that B flat. If I play a major scale over that, which has a natural seventh, the B note is going to turn that into like a major sounding chord. So that note will clash if I'm playing like a seventh or a ninth chord. So you can use the Mixolydian mode. And another way of thinking of the Mixolydian mode is a major scale with a flat seventh degree. Here's a C major scale. If I flat the seventh, I now have C Mixolydian mode. So that will work for dominant type chords. And also you can mix the dominant type chords with both major and minor blues scales and major and minor pentatonic scales, because in the blues type category, both of those scales, both major and minor pentatonics, major minor blues, will work, and that has to do with passing tones and stuff. And again, there's a link to my videos on pentatonic and blues scales. You might want to check that out as well. Okay. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up button. It's a free way to help the channel grow. And if you like original progressive instrumental rock music, check out my other channel, Dan Beagleman Music. I'm Dan Beagleman, and those are 4-part chords and arpeggios. Have a nice day.